So Estelle, just in getting to know you over the years since we've known each other for a while, and I've seen you at different positions. We worked together at the college, Community College of Baltimore County, and I've seen you after that go on to do some amazing things. So just if you could just tell us a little bit about what you think is your greatest leadership skill as you sort of navigate different roles, different jobs, different positions. What is your personal greatest leadership skill?
Well, thank you. I'm kind of excited to talk about this because I think that my experience will show everyone that they're born inherently with leadership skills. And so it's just really a matter of discovering what makes you most effective, most impactful. Um, so I kind of learned about leadership really from my mother, and she was not a traditional leader whatsoever. She was a state politician, an elected official in the state legislature, but she was not charismatic. She was not a good public speaker. Instead, she did two things really, really, really well. One is that she totally did her homework. So um, when she was involved with a piece of legislation, she'd have thick accordion files and they'd have
Mm-hmm.
the research on that topic and prior legislation and blah, blah, blah. And so whenever she went into the, legislative chamber, she knew more than everyone in the
Mm-hmm.
room. And that was a big deal. Um, and the second thing that she did was they called it the Tom Sawyer Plus. Um, so, in Tom Sawyer, he paints the fence and he doesn't want to be painting the fence, but he acts like it's just the greatest thing to do. And so people passing by are inspired and intrigued and they jump in and they paint the fence for him. But in her case, she wasn't asking people to do her work. She was going to work on painting the fence too, but she would just be so excited about doing it that people would just jump in and do the hard work. And they always talked about how amazed they were, being on her committees, and they were so hardworking. So that I didn't realize it at first, but she really inspired me that you don't have to have traditional, the kind of traditional um, characteristics to become a leader. So my style is like an adaptation of my mother's. So I have always been really, really, really poor at convincing others to, to come my way. Um, have a horrible track record doing that. But I have a great track record in terms of attracting people who already think that the issue that I care about is really important. They're already super enthusiastic about it, but I have them come my way. And you say, well, that's no triumph, but it is because they come my way and then together we're focused on the same issue that we care about. And so we can leverage all of their interest and all of their commitment and all of their energy and creativity towards a common goal. And so I've been able to, when I look back, I've been able to get quite a lot done um, that way. And so that's what I would say is my greatest leadership skill is to attract enthusiastic people to come work with me.
Well, I know that won me over. I think when we first started years ago at Morgan, we had a common passion about student retention and completion, and we worked on the early alert. And I agree with you when you have people that share that passion and that drive for doing something together, and it's like, oh, you believe in that, and I believe in that too, and hey, let's work together. And I will just say about your mother, I never had an opportunity to meet her, but I've heard from you over the years of, the wonderful accomplishments that she had and just raising, I think it's four girls, four daughters. And you all have done so many great things in the world. And I think did your father write a book about your mother?
He
Yes.
did.
So yeah, she has a legacy and of her own. So great to hear you talk about your mother as well and her legacy and what she left with for you. Speaking of working together, when we did that at the college at Morgan, you worked with a lot of groups. Why is that? What is the importance of working with groups and collaborating, things like that?
I mean, yeah, so I really can't think of anything that I've done professionally kind of by myself. I love um I really, really love just being kind of surrounded by people, optimistic people, positive minded people, to share the same interest. And um, uh, you know, um, sometimes so people say, well, the disadvantage of that is that um, your pathway can be distracted from what you would do if you were on your own. If you're working with all these other people, you have to compromise and um, things like that. But I have actually always felt kind of the opposite, that um, it's really exciting to me to sit around a table. And my projects tend to be with you, Yvette. We have worked together for years and years and years, but um, in general, that's not the way it is. In general, I just kind of, whoever is sitting around the table, those are the people who are making the decisions about that project for that day. And um, there's kind of this rotating in and out and transitioning all the time about who is actively involved, but there's always a group, you know, the group lasts forever. Um, so I've always, you know, I've just always love to work in groups, and it's kind of like a social support maybe as well. But it's been a big part of what's truly satisfying for me.
Mhm. And I totally agree about the importance of working in groups, and I feel the same way. I think when I collaborate, and when we wrote that whole chapter about collaboration, of course, we collaborate on so many projects on our book and podcast and things like that. You get to see other people's perspectives, their skill set, their knowledge, their work experience, things that they can bring to, as you said, that table that we may not have. So I'm a strong supporter in working in groups. And I bring my own skills and education to the table, and to see other people bring their own skills and unique perspectives as well. So I totally understand and agree about the importance of groups. So thank you for mentioning that. So we both had that in common. And I know in working with you and working on the book and other projects, you're a strong believer in evidence-based practice to become a more effective leader. That's not always my strong my strong point, but we actually did an episode, I believe, with Dr. Phyllis Stone, who was great to talk about the importance of that evidence-based practice, and was really very helpful. And I'm using it more and more. I see a lot of times with grants that I write, they're looking for evidence-based practice, and the importance of it is so key. So we can talk about student experiences, we can talk about those type of things, but a lot of research and a lot of articles and grants are looking for what you've been talking about for years with me, is that evidence-based practice. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that makes for a more effective leader?
Yes. So, well, as you were talking, I was just thinking, oh, but Yvette, you used evidence-based teaching strategies for student engagement. Those are all of the strategies that you use are research-based. The gifts um, that we interviewed you about in a prior episode, all of that is based on research. But yeah, I did want to share a particular experience that I had with evidence evidence-based practice, which really made me just believe it wholeheartedly. So, um, Yvette and I worked together at Morgan State University, and she was the retention coordinator, and I was a faculty member. And at that time, she introduced me to two evidence-based methods. One was supplemental instruction, which is all about student peer leaders who facilitate study groups, and they use um, evidence-based study strategies um, using the content in that was covered in that course that week. So they're showing you by doing how to study in a group effectively and which study skills are most effective. So um, that uh, supplemental instruction and then early alert was what you introduced to Morgan at that time, which is identifying students early in the semester that the first stumble, having faculty identify those students, and then that faculty notice goes to the retention staff, who then make sure that the student is connected to the supports that they need. So I had already heard about that from you, and then I moved to the Community College of Baltimore County, and I was their retention coordinator. And my job, it was a very first time that they had this grant. So my job was to improve the retention and graduation of nursing students. Um, and when I came, the graduation rate for white students, the on-time graduation rate for white students was 44%. The graduation rate for non-white students was 22%. One
Wow.
in five non-white students did not complete their degree that they wanted so badly within 2 years. So I got busy with evidence-based practice. And I had, we used SI, we implemented supplemental instruction. Um, we implemented an early alert tutoring. Um, and we also had a kind of like a freshman orientation. Um, Now, when I started there, um, I started after this. I began working there after the semester had started, so my interventions could only occur after that. So we had tutors, we had faculty, professional tutors, and we had a little bit of money for like lunches for time management workshops and so forth. But once the semester had started, the students were so nervous, not one of them came to the any other workshops. And I would have to kind of literally ask students in the hallway, do you want to come and see a tutor? And they're, she's right there. So the next semester, we planned for and started to implement supplemental instruction. And the passage rate for that first course went up about 10% that first semester. Um, and we, because we were using evidence-based practice, concept itself of what we were doing was solid. It had been researched. So we, at the Community College of Baltimore County nursing program, could focus exclusively on good implementation. And so we really focused on implementation. We had a project management team, that group, to manage, look at the data and decide about what to change. And at the end of the day, after 2.5 years with those evidence-based practices, we had started out 22% non-white, 44% white on-time graduation. 2.5 years later, evidence-based practice, 40, 40, no, sorry, 68% of non-white students graduated on time,
Wow.
from 22 to 68, three times,
Wow. Oh my God.
and 68% of white students. So the gap
Mm,
was eliminated.
Mm.
and both, both boats rose. And if you let it go another year to 3-year graduation rate, 90%.
Oh
So
my God.
essentially, everyone who wanted to could
Wow.
could graduate, because there's always people who say,
Mm,
"Oh, I discovered after I started that this wasn't good for my family," or,
mm,
you know, I
mhm.
don't like blood, so I didn't want to be a nurse. The things like that would change their mind. But yeah, 90% overall would
Wow.
graduate within 3 years, and there was no difference between the non-white and the
Mhm.
white graduation rates. Uh,
Wow.
so it was, it looked like a miracle, but
Yeah.
it was evidence-based practice.
Wow. That is incredible because in our area of higher education, we always talk about closing that achievement gap. And you've done that. And I remember now that we're talking about it because we were at the same college as you said, same campus. And I remember everyone just talking about how the graduation rates and how impressive that was.